So GLM 5.1 just launched a couple hours ago, and it has some rather audacious, impressive benchmarks. As we can see here from overall coding performance evaluation, it comes in third. However, in the agentic coding SWE Bench Pro, it comes in first, beating GPT 5.4 and Opus 4.6. Now, it is worth mentioning that GLM 5.1 is an open source model. We live in very interesting times where open source models are overtaking state-of-the-art models like Codex and Opus 4.6. Now, these benchmarks are great. I love benchmarks. I think they do a really, really good job to give us an overview of how these things work. However, I do not take these things at face value. And so I will be putting GLM 5.1 against Claude Opus 4.6 in real world scenarios. So what this means is I will open up the terminal, load both of these models. For GLM, I'll be working with Open Code, and for Opus 4.6, obviously be working with Claude Code. Now, I have a bunch of prompts here. There are about 3 in total. One is very technical, and there are 2 creative prompts to test these models and see which one performs best. Now, there are a few rules. Rule number 1 is this is a single shot. This means I will send the prompts to the agent and make no modifications afterwards. So the winner will depend on the model that performs the best out of that singular instruction. And then the second rule is I will be working with these models at different harnesses. So for Opus 4.6, I'll obviously be working with it from Claude Code. And for GLM 5.1, I'll be making use of it from Open Router. I reckon this is the typical way most people will use these agents, so it just makes sense to load them up from this instance. So without wasting much of your time, let's get right into it. We will be running the first prompt, which is a test in the model's architectural performance. The goal here is to see which model performs best when they are given really complex software engineering tasks. All right, so GLM 5.1 completed the task before Opus by a couple seconds. It took GLM 2 minutes 46 seconds, and it took Opus 2 minutes 50 seconds, so just by a hair. And they're both done. We're going to open up the browser and see what they did. So this is what we have going on. This is GLM, and this is from Opus. The user interfaces are very simple, straightforward, practical. Nothing seems to be breaking so far, so that's a good sign. Now let's go in and check the logic. We do have the responses, and we can try to see how it works. And when we send the request, we do get a response. Now, it is worth noting that these are mock data, but again, it is worth mentioning that these are mock data. We're trying to see how well they actually execute the task. And the search endpoint seems to work fine as well. We can go ahead and send the request, and we do get a response. The post request also works. And yeah, so what we've built from both of these models seem to work really well. I do have to mention that Opus's approach to the UI and the UX is intuitive. It's a bit more intuitive than GLM, right? As you can see here, we have to scroll down multiple layers before we're able to run make request. However, in Opus's version, the section to make request is just right in front of you. You don't have to scroll all the way down, and we can make that request as well. And getting hotels, we can simply send that and we can see the response. So while this was supposed to be a logical, technical task, and I think they both did really well at executing them, we can see how the subtle UX design decisions that Opus made sort of elevates the experience of making use of this interface to test what they've built. So in my opinion, for this test, Opus wins 1-0 by 4. In my opinion, it's a tie for both of them because the logic is sound, user interface and the user experience is ever so slightly different, but this isn't a creative test, so I wouldn't go on ahead and give it to Opus yet. So it's a tie between both of them from this test. We're going to move on to the second test. So this second test is the most fun test that I like to run when carrying out these benchmarks and these tests between models. And it is one where we get the models to generate a remotion component. Now, if you're not familiar, remotion is a React library that empowers you to build and design really cool motion graphics with code. Now, so far, in my experience, Claude Opus does the best job across the board, across every single model in generating fantastic, phenomenal motion graphics with remotion. Now, if GLM is as good as it claims to be, I think it may give Opus a run for its money, so I want to put this to the test. So this is a creative test where we will be getting these models to generate a remotion UI component. Let's see how well they perform. So this is the prompt. I'm going to go ahead and copy it and then paste into each of them. And file name equals GLM. So I'm just adding the instructions. So I'm just adding the file name instructions so they give the files different name and it doesn't clash. So we're going to go on ahead and run this. So the final results are in, and there's a reason why running this test is sort of the litmus test of figuring out if these models are as good as they claim. Right? Now, for one, it took Opus about 1 minute and a few seconds to wrap this up. I think that's 2 minutes, and it took GLM quite a bit of time, right? It took it quite a bit of time. I'm not sure if that's cause of Open Router's API issues or whatever, but it took it a bit of time. I had to run the command a couple times before it got it right, before it actually started writing the code, right? Anyway, let's get into the results. So there's a reason why this is one of my favorite tests. We're going to start with Opus's version and see what it got. Yeah, and so this isn't bad. This isn't terrible at all. However, we can see that some of the cards overlap on the primary card, and that's not perfect, but it's good. It's pretty usable. You can see we have, like the prompt suggested, a line going from one location to the other, and shows that it's been canceled, and it brings up the cancel card, and then it shows a bunch of hotel options. Right? Pretty straightforward, and it has like the button to rebook. Pretty good. Works well. This is what we got from GLM. Honestly, GLM's version would have been my preference if it wasn't for this. So this, it fell apart, right? And, these are the tiny little attention to detail that I think Opus has ahead of a ton of these other models, right? So this is, again, a creative test, and it has to do with writing code. But Opus outperformed GLM, point blank period. It outperformed it, and it did a much better job. Again, I would have preferred GLM's version if this actually worked. GLM would have taken the cake because the UI is spaced out. It looks nicer. Right? But the fact that the logic falls apart just goes to show the attention to detail. And for me, Opus takes this second round. So we're going to move into the third and final test. The third and final test is pretty straightforward. It is a prediction market onboarding UI. So the task here is also pretty simple. The models are going to build a fully interactive onboarding flow for a prediction market platform as a single self-contained HTML file. There are no frameworks, no build step, and it opens directly in browser. And a couple other specific things it is supposed to do. So let's go on ahead and run that and see the results. And finally, these are the results. This is Opus's version, and this is GLM's version. Now, I have to say, the first time I ran this prompt, I did run it behind the scenes. The results were vastly different. Like, they both gave me very different results. And GLM performed much better than Opus did. Like, Opus's UI actually broke. Like, it wasn't really usable, which was interesting, right? But, I guess it's one of those things. It was just having a bad day. Well, this is the live test, and this is the onboarding flow from Opus, and it's pretty straightforward. It seems like it works well. Predict the future, win real rewards, get started, watching a match, next, leak memo, see your profile, Arsenal, good, make prediction, yes, see results. Great, animation works well, nothing seems to be broken, it works really well. And this is GLM's onboarding UI, so we're going to go ahead, click get started, and okay, things are broken. We can't scroll down, I have to do this. So GLM's UI is actually broken. Live scores, yes. Game results, yes. Charts. It's actually really broken. So GLM's UI is barely usable. It's bad. The first version, fell apart. However, I was able to click on the button and we got to this point. Let's predict. This doesn't look great. And lock in. I mean, at least the confetti looks nice. And so, yeah, that's the result from a GLM's version. And this is what we have from Opus's version. So my verdict is really, really simple. Opus won this section 3-1. GLM started out pretty strong. And I think if we, prompted the agent a bit more, guided it a bit more, it would have done a really good job. But I don't think it stood a chance against Opus in the remotion section. I don't think any model stands a chance against Opus 4.6 when it comes to remotion. I need to figure out why that is. I do have a theory, but we'll get to that maybe in another video. But yes, the benchmarks, again, are great. But when it comes to real world usage, and sometimes when you put them in these very weird scenarios to test them out, the results are oftentimes different from what the benchmarks suggest. This was a really fun, quick test. I don't want to go into a bunch of, other tests or whatever, other prompts. Feel free to do that. You can, test GLM 5.1 using OpenRouter and Claude if you have an Anthropic account. You can run these tests by yourself. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope this was helpful. I hope this was insightful. It gives us a bit more context as to how well these models perform. Thank you so very much for watching. My name is Jinka. If you like this, give it a thumbs up, like it, subscribe if you want to see more comparisons, AI tech videos, AI educational videos, software engineering videos like this one, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.